All right, I'll call the meeting to order at 7:11. And obviously, our main reason tonight is hear a presentation from the capital needs for the school department. So without delaying anymore, Doug, you however you want to do it, if you want to go, or Bob, or however you guys want to do it, it's up to you.
I think Bob's prepared to kind of speak in regard to the capital.
Yeah, I can talk now. Do you guys have the capital request list in front of you by any chance?
Bob, I could share it, or I could relinquish the host to you, and you can kind of walk through it as you're talking. Whatever's easier for you.
Let's see if I have it. Yeah, you could give me the host, and I could just share it up, put it on the shared.
Frank, are people here for a public comment, or are they gonna like, is Christine, and I can ask Christine and Stephen directly, are you here to kind of speak and then leave, or do you want to listen in on the whole presentation of all the capital project asks? Does it matter, Frank, when they speak, or?
I don't think it does. Christine, did you want to talk? Did you want to talk real quick, or just listen to the whole presentation and then talk about the school?
I'm fine to listen first and then.
Okay.
Okay.
You guys all see that?
Perfect.
Yep.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe.
Yep, no problem.
And Christine, the Woodville playground is 5 items in. So once we get to that, you guys could jump right in, and then if you want to jump off, by all means.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for the time to present capital requests that we have for the school department. I could go by line, and I'll pause after each description. Some of these we went over last year, and some were approved. And I'll let you know what was approved last year, carried to phase 2, but canceled because of COVID. And then I'll tell you which ones are new as well. So first on the list, so we have 3 tiers, right? Like every year. So this is tier 1, this page. First on the list is the hot water heater replacement at Dolbear. This one's kind of ironic. It was approved last year, went to phase 2, but then of course, because of COVID, was canceled. And just last week, this failed. So the DPW, Joe's guys graciously replaced it over the weekend. So, I mean, I don't know if we still keep it to approve it to carry funds forward to pay it, or if we pay it out of the emergency fund right now, since we did have to replace it. So pay it out of this year.
Bob, not to interrupt, that's all set. We're going to take care of that. So that's project completed, saved it from the plan. We're good to go.
All right, appreciate it. Scratch that then. Thanks, Joe. All right, and Joe, so this is Doyle. Joe and I discussed last year. Joe added 10 parking spaces for us. That was kind of phase 1, but the remainder, and this is at Doyle, the remainder of the driveway going around the back of the school, the roadway is really crumbling. We've had some kids fall, scuff their knees quite a few times. Few teachers have slipped and fallen and gotten hurt. So this really needs to kind of get repaved. I don't have a cost on that, but that's why I've kind of put Joe, DPW, to be determined if you had it in the budget.
Yeah, and that's something. So just so you're aware, we'll go out and survey, and we'll probably end up just doing that. The one thing that I want to make sure is in the alcove there, the drain that sits in the middle. I just want to make sure that the grades are right, so that any pavement that we do put in there pitches the water away from the building, but then also doesn't wash anything out. So we have a little bit of homework. The snow has melted, so we should be able to start moving on some of those things.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Third on the list. So this is IT. This is where I was hoping Todd would be able to jump in, because he and Jeff had worked on this, and he could speak much better to this than I can. So Doug, Christine, if you guys want to jump in after I kind of give a brief overview, please feel free to do so. So Jeff Weiner, the IT director here at the schools, has a 5-year plan for reoccurring projectors and IT equipment that needs to be replaced. So This was actually, I believe, going on year 6 or 7 with these projectors at the Galvin. So the Galvin's what, 2014, 15 it was built. So we're going on year 6. So Jeff really has a 5-year plan, and it is to replace projectors. So projectors over time go bad. And he has looked at the cost to repair them, but the cost to repair them versus buying new is pretty much a wash. So it really doesn't make sense to repair a 5, 6, 7-year-old projector when you just get a state-of-the-art one. So this is a cost, and I know it's it's the biggest number we have on here, right? $200,000. But this is the cost to replace 92 classroom projectors and spaces throughout Galvin. There's a large projector in the auditorium that's almost $10,000, and that's used, for town meeting, for rentals, for a multitude, not just school use in the auditorium. This is also to do recabling, which is HDMI runs. Right now, I mean, this was what, 6 years ago, right? 7 years ago when the school was built. So they didn't really have flex HDMI back then when they ran this. So some of the HDMIs we have, Mike Curtin, the town electrician, has to replace them, every so often when they break because of the radius that's on them. So this would be for new cabling to allow, a better run from the projector to the outlet. So that is the total, which is $200,000.
So this was actually scaled back, right? And so the original proposal that Jeff Weiner came in with, and he worked on this with Todd as well, was $300,000, actually a little bit over $300,000. And, so just in regard to scale, and just to kind of, add a little bit more context to what Bob is sharing, right? And so what we've learned a lot during the last year of COVID. It's like all problems bear gifts, right? And so what we might have saved in terms of wear and tear and not renting our buildings and having people in and out of our buildings continuously, we've certainly put a ton of hours on all of our technology infrastructure. Cameras are part of that infrastructure. And, the problem is that when cameras fail and we can't kind of use technology to teach kids, and this includes when they're zooming in. So this affects synchronous learning, asynchronous learning, and in-person learning. One of the things that we had shared with Jeff was that, the number is just too big. $300,000 is, for all of the expenses that come with capital, we need to kind of break this out and we need to do it over a couple of years. So this is where we got kind of the scale back version. So we would be doing half the projectors and then kind of, doing the next half. And we would actually break it out year over year, where we would be doing Galvin. We would be, adding to some of the elementary schools, and then year over year we would do this. So that's where we landed. So this is kind of what we think. And Todd has weighed in here with Jeff, and their partnership during COVID as well has really become more close than it was in the past as well. So this is kind of what we think is an adjusted price. And we think we're kind of trying to be thoughtful about all of the competing demands right now. So that's, I don't know if I'm missing anything, Christine. I know that you had unmuted.
No, thanks, Doug. I would just reiterate what you said about the schedule for replacement. Jeff and Todd have collaborated and been really thoughtful about what needs to be replaced. These are the oldest ones, and we don't want any classroom to be down, particularly during COVID and post-COVID when we're trying to get everyone back. But like Doug said, we have really looked at this, and this is the minimum of what we need in order to make sure that we're up and running.
So I think you can go to the next line, Bob.
Are we gonna get Jeff in front of us just to go over his 5-year plan?
We can absolutely do that, Phil.
Just to understand, because every year there is considerable asks in these projectors, and I know we have a new world, and then the recabling of the HDMI is concerning and why things are failing, but it is what it is. I'd like to learn more about that. But do we know if can Jeff come to one of our meetings, Frank?
I don't know. Joe, what did he tell you? Was he gonna be able to come next week?
Todd is planning on joining one of our meetings. I have not spoken to Jeff directly. I don't see why that would be an issue.
Oh, Todd, yeah, that's fine. Just someone from IT, yep.
And I think, Phil, if both Todd and Jeff can be here together, because one of the things that I think they've been really effective at is kind of trading off projects, right? Whereas if we're doing something for the town, Jeff tries to scale back on the school side, and I know Todd has done the same for us. And so, but to have them here together, I think they could tell that story and kind of fill that in. So I think it's a good point.
Yeah. One thing we've been asking any departments is like, if for some reason we couldn't fully fund your ask, is there certain priorities within your ask, that we maybe could partially fund this year, and what would those be? And I feel like that would be a good IT question because they probably would know best.
I think you're right.
And Bob, I don't know, or Joe, the 26,000 for the cable, you said that Mike was installing them or repairing them. Is that just for materials and Mike's going to install them, or is that for a third party to come in and replace all those cables?
This quote would be for a third party, Frank.
Okay.
Mike is currently replacing ones that break.
All right, just wanted to be clear on that. I was assuming he was going to do them all. Okay, that's good.
So I know Todd was looking into doing the cabling over the summer with his group, but just the timing and just the manpower to do it, I think that he and Jeff discussed it, and they said it would probably be better off to have a third party do it.
Okay.
But again, they could probably go together, tag team, and go to your next meeting and give you guys, like I said, more information on this than any of us could.
This is Dan Calori. I expect you can hear me. I'm just on the phone here. And I'm sorry to join so late, but I want to just ask this quick question about the projectors. If we partition this projector request down to something lower, does the other material cost, the recabling, is that a fixed cost that would be required even for a smaller number of projectors?
I don't want to speak because I haven't seen the official quote. But I don't want to speak out of turn, but I believe it would probably scale it down. But on the conversely, if you do that, you run the risk of projectors throughout the year go bad and they need to be replaced. So if you run the risk of constantly having projectors become unusable and you have to replace them regardless. So then that would kind of fall on the local budget, and year over year, it's kind of a big question mark on what technology is going to fail, right?
Okay, one other question. You may have already discussed this, and I apologize, but as far as new projectors, the 92 projectors that you're talking about here, is that a replacement of all the projectors in the building, or is this a subset of the total? And how many are there in the total if this is a subset?
So this is Doug Lyons. Jeff Weiner can share the actual number, but we've asked him to scale this back and not do the total number of projectors and to do it year over year to try to save money. So we're hedging our bets. But when Jeff comes to the meeting with Todd, I mean, he can give the exact number of projectors and he can give the plan year over year.
Okay, thank you.
You're certainly welcome.
All right, so if there's no more questions on that, they can answer that in the next meeting. The next line item is the Doyle. It's to remove an old boiler. So there's two boilers there, both large cast iron, encased with asbestos. One was removed, Joe, it was before me, 3 or 4 years ago, maybe. And two boilers were put in its place.
Yeah, I believe that was calendar 18, fiscal 19. So it was just before I think we came back.
Yeah. So that was just before me. So this other one was left there. And at the Doyle, there's a premium of space. This is where we store a lot of our custodial equipment, and a lot of the stuff in there is actually blocking some electrical panels and other things. You know, the fire department has been asking for a few years now. And, you know, I know this, right, per building code, you really shouldn't be storing stuff, but there's a premium of space in that building, and removing this will not only get rid of an asbestos containing, you know, piece of equipment that's not in use, or nor will be in use ever again, and it'll allow some more space to get up to code. So I think that's kind of straightforward unless anybody has any questions. All right. Okay, next is the Woodville. This was on last year's capital. This was approved again, but put on phase 2 and kind of taken off due to COVID. So this is just to replace the existing playground. To give, I don't know if everyone's aware, but to give you a little background, we did have to replace the decking on this playground a few months ago, just because it was corroding, falling apart, and becoming a safety hazard. So we closed the playground. Dennis Fazio replaced the current decking. Out of all the playgrounds in the district, this is definitely the one I think that we should still continue. Although we did spend the money as of recent, I think that we should still continue to move forward and replace. So Christine, I don't know if you wanna jump in and say your piece.
Oh, yeah, thank you. We just kind of wanted to let, everybody know that the structure actually was donated from the Lincoln School when the Lincoln School closed. So it's probably from the late 90s, if that. It's pretty unsafe. There's been several broken arms. So we're just hopeful that the kids will get a safer structure that they can enjoy. And there's not even any fields for the kids to play with at Woodville. So we're just really hopeful that it'll get approved and they'll have a new structure that they can look forward to.
They don't let them on the new softball field because it costs too much money.
They're not allowed down the ramps.
Dennis is watering it too often. There's never any time to get on. It's always wet.
Yeah, I think we agreed last year as a committee that it was definitely a need. We did the Greenwood last year, and obviously, if our capital budget remains where it's been for the last couple of years, we'd like to do one per year, each school. So Woodville was up last year, and I don't see why I don't see why we couldn't do it this year.
Stephen, I know you unmuted. Were you going to add something?
No, that was no. I wasn't really going to add anything. I could just say the only reason that we even became concerned about it was because I think during a school committee meeting there was talk about that bridge, and then somebody just not knowing if that would impact sort of if the playground would get done.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, no, if we're all kind of on board for it, and because to what Christine was saying, although the decking did get replaced, a lot of parents have been asking, there were other pieces of the play structure that were somewhat dangerous, like the kids climbing up the slide and the little slide thing, whatever you call it, but anyway, and something more accessible for those that are like maybe less physically able would be great, bringing it up to line. So yeah, if we can keep it on the slate, we would really appreciate it.
So Stephen's comment about accessibility for us is really a priority. All of our playgrounds have to be ADA accessible. It's required by the state and the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, right? And so, if there's an older playground in place, so, they'll give us a grace period, but in our last coordinated program review, which was 3 years ago, they had asked for a timeline. This is one of the areas that they had suggested that needs to be improved. So this would be terrific for us to be able to report back to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Ed that we're bringing this up to ADA code. And it would also make it to be a more practical, accessible to more kids in the school, which would be great.
All right, thanks, Doug. So moving on to the next item. This is for the Christine and Stephen. You guys are more than welcome to stay, or if you want to jump off, that's It's fine as well. Thank you guys both.
Thank you.
So Galvin, we have a snow removal equipment machine. It's a SSV sidewalk snow machine. So this is the same machine that the DPW building department just got last year. So one of the reasons we're requesting this for the Galvin is the largest building that we have to clear for sidewalks in the school district from help me, is that North Ave to
Main Street.
Yep.
Main Street? Yes, thank you. I should have had Main Street over North Ave. Thanks, Frank. So this school has the most sidewalks, and there was a tractor that was bought when the school was first built to help clean the snow, and just with all of the concrete structures out front and the ins and outs that we need to get around, that machine just isn't sufficient. It takes an extremely long time to clean the sidewalk. So we're looking for a piece of equipment that'll help us clean much quicker. When there's big snow, when there's just, some small snow having a different attachment. I spoke with the guys over on Joe's team on what they have and went over and looked at the machine, and they agreed that they think that it would work well at the Greenwood or at the Galvin. On top of that, we did have last week or 2 weeks ago a couple slips and falls. One of our staff actually broke a hip. So we're just looking to try to keep everyone safe and really get the right equipment in to get the job done. So if there's no questions on that, I'll move to the next item.
Excuse me, Dan Calori again. Just on the machine that you now have, is there a reuse that we can put that to? Or could you use that as a trade-in on the new machine?
So Dan, we could look at one of two things. We could look at a trade-in, but I was also thinking possibly bringing it over to the high school and Woodville and storing it somewhere over there to help with the large sidewalk in front of the high school, and even up towards the sidewalk up towards Landrigan Field. So, I mean, I was going to look at both options. If we could get a fair value trade for it, then we'd probably trade it in. But, if they're only going to offer us a couple $1,000s, I think it would be better used to keep it in-house.
Yeah, I agree. I'm just thinking that maybe in another town department like DPW, they may have a use for it too, because you've already got something that's dealing with the high school, I presume.
So the high school, we just have snow blowers at the high school.
Oh, you do?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Galvin
All right.
County School with a piece of machinery.
Okay.
Besides
Yeah.
the snow blowers.
You're thinking about this. That's good. Okay. Thanks.
Thank you. Next is a district item. This is Novatime time and attendance software. This was approved last year, again, because of COVID, went to phase 2 and fell off. This is the same software that Joe and his team use to track labor and clock in, clock out for staff. Right now, we do a lot of manual paper that are every 2 weeks, staff hands it in, and we have a couple ladies in the office that spend 2 to 3 days processing payroll. So this will really help, expedite that, but also track the labor usage that our employees are doing.
That'll upgrade all the district-wide on that?
So that would do all seven schools, Frank. And then, so this would just be for the initial install, and then the school would cover the year-over-year cost, which I think is $5,000, which is like the maintenance fee and system upgrades, stuff like that.
Okay.
Yep. So this would pretty much be for the physical install to put the system into the schools. We would have one in each school, so 7 total.
Is that
And the
$5,000 maintenance fee per school or for all the schools?
So that maintenance fee, $5,000 year over year, is for the entire district,
Oh,
for all the schools. Yeah.
that's a big
I don't think we would do it at 35 grand a year.
if I could just chime in, Bob, I would just like to reiterate about how timely manual entry is for payroll and how, you know, everyone tries to be perfect, but there's mistakes that happen when we're doing manual data entry. So I just think this will improve efficiencies for the staff and to make sure that the staff gets paid correctly. And I think DPW is using this. You said that, Bob, right?
They do.
Yeah.
Yep.
In 2021, the fact that we do any manual data entry is a question mark.
Exactly.
Doing big things. So the next item was as I recall, quite a discussion last year. Phil, I know we talked about this. It's HVAC recommissioning. So right, every year, we're really every 7 to 8 years, you should recommission your HVAC in the building. Right, we have 7 buildings, so we discussed. I would think this would be year over year. I think this has come more to light than ever before with COVID, right? So this was Phil. I think you had mentioned, right, we should have this into our local budget. Right now, I don't have a line item for this in the local budget. That's why I kind of put it back here just to start the discussion again. And Joe, I'm sure you're looking at stuff like this also for town buildings. So I don't know, just open it up for discussion, I guess.
Is that for one school?
So this would pretty much be for one school, yes.
Which school would get recommissioned with this?
So right, I mean, we can look at whatever school we want to. I would say start with the older schools first, and then go forward. I mean, we've spent a lot of money and time into the high school in bringing that up to speed, changing out motors, rooftop unit, fans, exhaust fans, upgrading other pieces of equipment that haven't worked in quite some time and that is constantly breaking, right? The school is 50 to 70 years old, depending on what part you're looking at. But I mean, we could look at doing the high school first and then moving our way down on age of the schools from oldest to newest. That would be my plan, but I would also leave it up to discussion, right, on people's thoughts.
Yeah, to take this back up a level, I mean, the way I look at this budget, capital budget's about investing in the town. And this is ongoing maintenance that should recur. So I think that's always a discussion we have about, I really see our mission in investing in the town and understand that we need to keep the town, well maintained. But items like these, it would seem, should fall back and be included in operational budgets. And what we're doing is we're buying equipment and services to benefit and improve the town over time.
If I could just chime in a little bit, I agree with you and I hear you. But again, the school department we're tasked with the education of the students of Wakefield, and Bob's budget does not support maintaining all the HVAC systems in the district. And that became glaringly obvious when we went through our ballot report this year. COVID forced us to really look at our facilities, and we were fortunate. We were able to make improvements and adjustments that we didn't anticipate, but we were fortunate with some COVID grants to do this year. But it became very obvious that we need to invest in some of these facilities in order to maintain safe and healthy facilities for our students. So I agree with you. It's just about where this operating budgets lie. Maybe it's DPW, or it's something that we can discuss with the town.
It's just an annual
That's a fair
conversation.
point.
Like we have $7 million worth of capital asks. So it's just one of these things where we have to weigh out these capital priorities for all these departments my experience is commissioning is a operating expense unless it's done upon installation, then it can be capitalized. But maybe that's a FinCom question when we meet with them and see what they say about that. And then I really would, implore the school or whoever to try to figure out a line item, to insert a line item for this, because it is going to be recurring. I don't know how often though. I think that, Bob, do you know that? Does it depend on equipment, or is it every 7 years, or how
I mean,
often do you recommission equipment?
I think ASHRAE, they really suggest every 7 to 8 years. That's just kind of their standard. But again, depending on what HVAC professional you talk to and how I think a lot of it has to do with it, Phil, and you probably know this, is how well preventive maintenance you do on equipment.
Critical. It's critical. Right? It really sets the bar for these things. Are there any COVID related grants that somehow this could be, I'm sure people have thought of it, and maybe, with so much concentration on HVAC, I know the town has touched every piece of equipment this year. Is there anything out of the box that might qualify for a grant to pay for some of this or all of it?
So I think maybe the town can look at some FEMA reimbursements to use this money, but our one-time COVID money was to reopen schools, right, and that has been spent.
Right.
It was used to make sure that we could use a hybrid model and to get kids back into the buildings, which we're hopeful to do soon. But that money was one-time money and it's all been spent. So, and that was all for fiscal 21. There's no COVID money coming in for 22 unless, there's some stimulus, but I would say maybe this would fall under FEMA. So maybe Joe and Steve can look in that area.
Bill, just to touch base on this really quick. When we found out that the CARES money and FEMA money was going to be very HVAC centric, right? That was basically that was our response to the pandemic, was that, HVAC became a priority. That was the first question I asked Tom Walsh. Can I get commissioning? Everything that we were able to do, I vetted through him and he vetted through people at either feds or the state level. I think that we were more successful than not with a lot of it, and put ourselves in a good position. The answer on the commissioning to date has been, they do not recommend this expense at the moment. That they will likely push through in a reimbursement, but if for some reason that's to ever change, I talked to Tom daily. That's something that we would, in the drop of a second. So I don't know if that completely answers your question, but we definitely went there first to try to.
Trying to think. Yeah, I know it's critical, and again, to David, ditto, to what David said. It's just, our task as a capital planning committee is for capital improvements in the town. And so when something doesn't quite hit that definition, it's not, personal. It's just more of a matter of what we're charged with and what our money is supposed to be spent on. So I think we'll definitely ask the FinCom when we meet them what they think on that.
So I think that this is a can that we keep kicking down the road, and I understand it. And David's point is really well made around the charge of this committee, and I hear that loud and clear. One of the things that I think we're learning is that, with MSBA and the construction of Galvin, one of the things that MSBA has put into place is kind of a re-inspection of the building after it's constructed, right? And so, in the more complex the HVAC and engineering systems become, to be, more energy efficient, to be more cost efficient, the more delicate they seem to be in kind of keeping them kind of running well over time. So Phil, your point about preventative maintenance is really, really critical, right? And so when we don't kind of maintain things the way we should over time, and please, and DPW their plate is full, right? And we wouldn't be in school right now if it wasn't for our ability to partner with DPW in the town. But, you know, this is a cost that we really need to look at, because what happens is every year we have this conversation, every year this gets pushed to the back burner. And, we end up in Galvin or we end up in our schools. And, when systems, you go to town meeting, right, Phil? So
Oh, yeah.
for the last number of years, about 9 o'clock, it turns 58 degrees in the auditorium at Galvin, right? Like that's just flat out unacceptable, right? Betsy's on the stage with her coat on. She has everything but her hood up. It's just, the system's not designed to run like that. It needs to be better, and it needs to be, anyway, I won't go on and on, but this is something that I think we're eager just to kind of, again, we're not looking to pass the buck, and we understand that you guys are charged with a specific task. So we understand, so please. But we're just trying to nail this down.
What's the ticket to do all of them? Like, and is that a warrant article? Is that enough money and enough of a need that it makes more sense to do recommission? I'm talking not even schools, but every single building that has an HVAC system in town that needs one, or that, and look for a warrant article. And because this is 6 figures, I think, if you're looking at that, well into 6 figures.
But I think what Bob did and what we had talked about was, and Bob's request is in line with ASHRAE in their standards, is that if we do one a year, we have 7 schools and we kind of created the rotation, and we just invested a little bit of money every year instead of a 6-figure warrant article. I mean, so that's kind of the thinking there. But I hear it's your suggestion is well made, and I think I understand it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Phil's suggestion too. I think I've only been on this committee now for 3 years, and I don't know how many years you've been kicking the can down the road. So does it make sense to pull a warrant article to do this, and then, but at the same time, not miss the opportunity to have that conversation as to, where does the ongoing operational expense lie? So, but we hear you on the delay. And so I think, we will have a discussion with FinCom and see what their thoughts are around this. Having worked in the Commonwealth, this is a recurring issue, right? You have a project, it goes live, and then no one's figured out where to put the ongoing operational expense.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really a great point, David. And to bring that full circle, a school that's still not quite operating, I think, like we would have hoped, is the Walton. With all of the work that we've done there, I don't know if that system is operating in regard to the engineering side, that kind of, we think like, all right, we feel like this is operating as it's designed. I don't know that we're quite there yet. So this is something that we might revisit as well, but it's a good point.
In a larger conversation as well, and Joe and I have talked about this multiple times throughout the town, the schools and the town. I want to say there's 4 different automated building systems that we have throughout town. So that's not really, I don't want to say acceptable, but it's really not the best way to move forward in a town when you want to get service contracts. So one of the things we've talked about, and this would probably be a warrant article, to your point, Phil, is really try to get all of the buildings in town on the same, automated building system, right? I know the Galvin's different than the Woodville, that's different than the Walton. So having all these, we need to call contractors in, even for town hall, with different vendors each time. So it's not really the best suitable situation that we can have, right? And so who knows, when you redo the DPW building or the public safety or even the high school, right? Who are we going to be looking at? Are you just going to be looking at the low bidder? Then you're going to maybe have 5, 6 different building systems. So that's something to think about as well over the long term, with moving forward with the town's facilities.
Do towns ever hire like their own HVAC employee, like engineer or something to do this in-house? Is this ever a task that can never, is it cheaper on the long run just to hire someone to do it all? But probably not, but just wondering if how other bigger towns handle these HVAC needs, because it's a constant issue. It's not, it's a big line item, so.
Well, that's where you run into these HVAC recommissioning, right? You can't just say the whole town was on Johnson Controls. You could just call Johnson Controls in, but we have Johnson Controls, ABS. There's just, I think there's 4 different ones. So each quote's going to be different and consist of different line items that you need to come in and look at. That, and some of them are proprietary, so you can't just have a third-party vendor come and look at them if you have a proprietary system, which is another animal unto itself.
Yeah, it's an interesting issue. Mhm.
Phil, I kind of touched on that earlier when we were talking about, we're in the public safety building meeting. So I definitely echo the same sentiment that Bob has, and I think that's part of the capital request that my group put in to see if maybe we could get some funding to convert one of these buildings so that, we're a bigger player in the contractor, or if we get to the point where we need the vendor to come out, they're going to come out and say, okay, Wakefield's got a couple of our buildings with a good business relationship. Sometimes I feel like on certain spots, we're a very, very small client to them, and it's easy for them to go to a place that does, hundreds of thousands of dollars of business when we're looking for, a $500 service call. But that service call to us is make or break, comfort and reliability for a whole day or week.
Yeah, is there going to be a standard, you think, moving forward, Joe, for any new buildings or any HVAC projects that they use a certain, what's the, this is kind of outside our committee, so I can retract the question, but just it's a big mess is what it sounds like for years of, things all over. How do you get everything lined up? It seems like it's a long process, but if there was a standard that every project had to, commit to, it would at least help.
So just not to get off topic, but so we had great success with this approach and mindset with the boilers in town. We've limited it to 2 different brands that we're all in tune with, and we know that we can get parts for, and the service is reliable. So it takes some time, but part of it's getting out and getting in front of the Zoom camera or showing up to the meeting and really advocating for that to happen. I think, we experienced that this morning. Clearly, we're doing the same thing here now. So it's not insurmountable. We just got to keep on pushing forward until we get to the goal that we want.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank
So I
Sorry,
guess
didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's all good information. I think is good to continue to talk about. So moving to the next line item, it's the Greenwood. I believe this was approved last year again, pushed to phase 2. It's a split AC system for the main office, principal's office, and conference room at Greenwood. As you all know, Greenwood's the oldest school, no AC there. A few years ago, the Chromebooks and laptops were stored there. They were all fried because there's no AC there in any place cool for them to be stored. So the IT department lost however many kids are in that school. I don't want to, 200-300 Chromebooks. They just were fried because it was too hot over the summer. But this will also help with the staff that's in there over the summer. A little comfort in there. And
So,
last, yep.
Sorry, Bob. Don't mean to. So I talked about this last night with the committee. Mike and Mike have been out there and taken a look at that. Maybe you and I will catch up offline, but my group, because we were able to do some of the work that we did with the HVAC this year, are in pretty good shape. So we're going to take that project on and expedite that and try to get it done faster and in-house. So
Okay, awesome.
That's a go.
Thank you.
Yep. Sorry, I don't think I have any more interruptions for you.
It's all good. I'll have to talk to Mike Kern about the electrical. I know he'll have it under control, but that's one of the big issues over there.
Yep.
And lastly, on tier one, this is phase two, a carryover from last year, updating all of the water bubblers around the district to be autofill. And I think this is more prevalent now than ever with COVID. Instead of kids putting their mouths up to water fountains, just have their own water bottle to fill up. Anne over at the DPW got a grant last year, so we didn't have to use the $5,000 approved. She got a grant for phase one, so this $9,000 should cover the rest of the water bubblers we need to install. And Matt Morris and Mike Roberto have been installing them as they just came in a few weeks ago. I think we ordered them about 5 months ago. So, like everything, lead times are killing us. So that's phase one. I can go through phase two and phase three really quick. Phase one are, as we've discussed in the past, just stuff that we really think needs to get done. And phase two, phase three are kind of looking down the line roadmap. Would be nice to haves. And then as time goes on, probably move up onto phase one. So tier two is spare projectors. I know there's a big ask on tier one for $200,000 of projectors. So this is just having projectors, as I said, as they fail, to have on hand to replace throughout the district. The high school, this is for the field house, an updated scoreboard at the geez, I'm trying to think of what end it's at that we were going to place. It's at the Main Street side of the field house. And this scoreboard is the current one there is very old. My current has to go up and change out bulbs when it goes bad. So having kind of an up-to-date state-of-the-art scoreboard would help with games and athletics down there. Another project at the Doyle. This would finish all the abating the asbestos tiles in the main office, nurse's office, and principal's office. I know we've done some work there with abating asbestos tiles, but $5,000 would finish that school and should take up the remaining asbestos tiles. And then lastly, in phase two is Woodville refinishing the gym floor. Last year, Chris Pierce and I did the Dolbear floor. We stripped it down, sanded it to bare wood, repainted it, and sealed it. So I think Woodville, currently they're using oil-based on this floor. So, in my opinion, the water-based sealant's better. In the oil-based, it gets very dark over time. And it just is a little tougher on your feet because it hardens more than the water-based. So this is a project that we would like to look at getting done in the near future as well.
Bob or Joe, I don't know what question. Could we save any money if we abated the, we did the boiler, the abatement on the boiler, and had them do the asbestos tiles at the same time? And just at least get them out of there. I know you still have to retile.
Yeah, we could definitely get quotes on throwing it all into one. Yeah.
Frank, you'll probably save some money. So the hygienist that has to come in after the project is complete. You're talking one trip versus two. If everybody's suited up to do the boilers, I don't think that doing the floor, you're taking maybe a day's worth of work or 2 days worth of work and stretching an extra half a day into it. You probably see some cost savings there.
I mean, I'm sure it's been thought of. That's the first thing that pops into my head.
Yeah.
How many offices you got? The main office, nurse, principal. So there's a lot of space there.
Yeah, but
leave it untiled for a while, but
it sounds like more space than it is, Frank.
okay.
The square footage isn't. I don't have the square footage right off the top of my head, but it's not that much. It's just it's that one area all divided up, split up.
Yeah, think of those companies. They're going to charge you for a mobile. It might only cost $500 to get rid of the stuff, but it costs $3,500 to get them out there for the day. I'm just throwing numbers out there, but something if you save one mobilization.
Yeah, if that's something you guys really want to me to look into further, I could get an actual quote from combining them together and get that to you guys if that's something that you would actually want to consider.
Would you consider, this is Dan Clory here, would you consider switching, this is an asbestos issue, so it's a safety matter. Would you consider making this a tier 1 and moving something from tier 1 down?
So Dan, it is and it isn't a safety issue until it becomes friable, which is when the
Right.
asbestos becomes airborne.
Starts
And
moving it?
that's when it gets into your lungs and attaches to your lungs and becomes cancerous. Until it becomes friable, that's when it becomes a safety issue. But right, you still kind of want to look at the stuff and get it out of there before it becomes a safety issue, right?
Okay,
So that's where I would think the boiler is more of a safety issue because we're constantly walking by it, hitting it. So I'm just in the space that's taking up, right, the safety issue where we're blocking the electrical panels, and the fire department is constantly asking us to move stuff. So
sure.
limited space in schools.
Are those more of budget numbers, or did you put those numbers together with any type of quotes?
So I didn't get specific quotes for the abatement, but those are typical off of past projects that
Yeah.
we've abated and that I've kind of taken. But I could definitely get you guys probably within a week or two a real quote.
I mean, Bob, if you could, let's say the 3rd.
Yep.
Maybe if you get it by maybe the next, I think we have a meeting next Wednesday. I mean, if I'm thinking you might be able to cut, you have $50,000 between the two of them. If you can cut 10 grand off it, by getting a hard number, I'm just talking out loud. You guys, you've had it from past projects, but.
It sounds like a good idea, actually.
And then, then we don't spend 25 this year and 25 next year. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, no, I could definitely do that. I'll give him a call tomorrow. I'll get that for you.
All right.
Thank you. And then finally, tier 3, we have 2 schools, the Doyle and Dolbear. We would like to get the rubber playground surface. Again, this is, as Doug mentioned earlier, trying to get these playgrounds ADA accessible as much as we can. Yes, there's the ADA compliant wood chips, but still, students and kids in wheelchairs, it's very difficult for them to navigate these areas with wood chips. They often tend to get stuck if the wood chips are shifted around, getting mounted. So those are some things to think for the future. One at the Dolbear, just looking for additional badge readers for the CAF and the third door at the front entrance. Those don't have badge readers at this current time. Again, this is something that is on tier 3, but if I think there might be a need, we could always look into a local budget if we need it, but this is down the road. And then looking into the next couple of years for playgrounds, I just put Walton, so we would probably have Walton on as the next playground after hopefully after Woodville, and then after that the kindergarten at the Dolbear. And I did have a field house roof on there because that is constantly leaking, but right with the acceptance to the MSBA for a new school, I think we could keep throwing Band-Aids at it for another 5 or so years until we get a new school. So that's what we've got for capital. If there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer them.
Just a quick one on the tier 3 badge readers. Is there any way you can look at that as an operating expense?
So that's what I had just mentioned as well, and we can right now. It's more of a want than a need. So,
Right.
But yeah, that's definitely something we can look at as well.
Okay, I think we saw this last year too. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks, Bob. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys for the time. As
Bob,
always.
Can you do me one favor? Before you sign off, can you just transfer the host back to me?
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
If I could figure out how to do that, Joe.
I just learned today, so I'm sure I got all the faith in the world in you.
At least someone does. What is it down below? Share screen.
I think if you just hover over my name, and if you hit more, you should be able to do it.
Look at that. Learn something new every day.
It's great to see that somebody under 50 has trouble with this tech stuff.
Dan, I was waiting for it. I was waiting for it, you know. I'm glad that someone spoke up.
And his first numbers are 3. So there's a, yeah.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you very much, guys. We appreciate the time.
Thank you for coming in.
Yes, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
And,
Thank you.
we'll talk with Jeff and Todd about getting back soon, right?
We would appreciate it.
Certainly.
All right. Thank you
Thanks,
very
Frank.
much for
Thanks,
coming.
Joe. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Take
Yep.
care.
Good night. Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're just missing Tracy.
Hey, thank you for the patience with me getting on this thing. It's a matter of learning a new way to do this stuff, so.
Dan, we figured by the last meeting, you'll be there for the whole one.
Hey, I've been on two different technologies tonight, so thank you.
All right. I mean, we don't have to go back over the recommissioning item now, but anything else that you guys found interesting or want to discuss?
I don't know what IT can give us, but like, I feel like every year there's this huge ask on projectors and technology, and it would really be helpful, and maybe they've presented this before. It would be great to see what they've done the last 3 years and then what their plan is for the next 5 years. I think it would be just good to see the bigger picture. Like 92 projectors is great, but how many classrooms do we have in the whole district? Like, what's the potential of how many projectors, we need? And like, these projectors are from the Galvin, which are already being replaced. Then the note says that they're supposed to be replaced in 19. It just seems like there's probably so many other classrooms that need it. And I just am interested in more of what they've done and what's the next 5 years look like in terms of getting technology, redoing the technology every year.
So what I can relate with is Chromebooks. I've been on this committee for a while. Maybe it was 8 years ago when Chromebooks started getting introduced to the school. I'm going off my memory. Joe, I don't know if we don't have to do it now or if we can look up, but the first year or two for Chromebooks, we funded them for, I want to say for one classroom from every elementary school and then the entire high school. I believe that was it. And then it was agreed that after that, they would replace their own units. And it's in the school budget now. Joe, do you know that off the top of your head? Chromebooks are in the school budget completely now, correct? If you're not supplying your own?
I would assume so.
Yeah.
I know, just to give a if my group needed one for whatever reason, I wouldn't bring it to capital for it. I think, they're relatively affordable now.
No, but when they
I would-
originally asked, it
I would
was,
think that their whole model has gone to a point where I don't know how you could not have a line item for something like that in your budget.
for projectors, you mean?
Oh, no, I'm talking about Chromebooks.
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying. I see the projectors could be going down that course because they definitely started with this group. Chromebooks started with this group. Just like chairs and desks did 25 years ago, but.
And it's needed, technology, like look at the school year, technology is critical to school systems. So, and from now probably and for forever at this point, but it just would help map out the asks, I guess. Maybe it'll help the town give us more money every year for capital, knowing we're going to be getting this big chunk from IT, maybe it'll help drive, maybe. Maybe.
We can ask the FinCom too when they join us.
Frank, what year did you start? I'm just looking back through some old stuff to see if I can find that real quick.
I want to say divide by 3. What's this, 2021?
Yeah.
So if I'm thinking 2009, 2008, so 2009 would be 12 years. Yeah, so probably 2009. Or maybe 2006. I don't think it's been that long.
I might have to go through some of the old town meeting archive stuff, but I'll see if I can find you a number on that, just so you.
I can look through my notes too. I know that we did that though. Some things stick out in your mind.
Frank,
It's like-
did you do a lease purchase for the technology? Did you finance the project?
Well, again, back then,
Yeah.
we used to lease purchase about $500,000 of just IT alone.
Yeah.
Stuff, because we were giving them, if it wasn't those items, it was, routers and other stuff to get everything caught up. Because it was agreed that for 20 years, the schools did nothing to get them into the new technology. And it was till they hit our group with it hard in like 2010 area, early 2010s. But then, like I said, they've obviously transitioned a lot of this over, because not that projectors are petty, but it used to be a lot more stuff than just projectors. And like I said, they legitimately asked for desks for rooms. And those got, there was a time when they were funding them, and then those got taken out. And then the Chromebooks, and then there's other items, but that's the
Yeah.
only thing that stinks about, Todd's been around for a while, and Todd knows a lot. I bet you if we get Todd on this meeting, I bet you he might recall, or he might have knowledge of it from previous guys. Just Todd's pretty good.
So let me ask a question. So obviously Todd wasn't able to join us tonight. I believe that there is a meeting.
I think Monday, Wednesday, next week.
Yep. Do you want to see if maybe, would you prefer Todd to be in either Monday or Wednesday? Is there a preference? Probably sooner than later, I would think.
Yeah.
I would
sooner.
say if Monday would be better, because then we can discuss everything on Wednesday and then vote on the following week. But I mean, if his schedule fits better,
Yeah.
I mean,
Monday.
we'll try to make it easy for him. But I mean, we'd like to have a Monday, I would think, right, everybody?
Earlier, better than later, yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll relay the message to him and ask him to get a hold of Jeff at the school department too. Just say, the committee's at the point now where,
Yeah.
we're getting down to the point where, it's make or break for a couple of these things. If you're gonna advocate.
It's not a lot of stuff. It's not a lot of stuff for them. I mean, it shouldn't be long.
I mean, basically, this is the last opportunity folks have to present to us, right? So it'd be in their best interest to join us on Monday.
If we have to knock them off for 8 o'clock, if we have to start an hour late, Joe, I don't know what they have going on, but
I'm gonna just roll with it as it's scheduled, and then
Okay.
I'll let you know if they have any difference. I gotta imagine we've been pretty accommodating, so there shouldn't be an issue with that.
okay, that would be great.
In 2016, when I started, they had, I just found some old notes. So they had IT department had presented a capital investment plan from fiscal year 16 to fiscal year 20. And then they also presented the lease payment plan going out all the way to, this one goes out to fiscal year 25. So there is some infrastructure for these plans. So hopefully he could just maybe send an updated one of both of those, because the lease payments are showing 0 on our sheet, which I thought they had some leases from like a few years ago. So I wonder if that lease on the top of our page is accurate. So maybe not. Maybe they ended up not leasing. I don't know.
I think before, when Rick used to run it, I don't know that he updated those all the time like Joe does with the lease and the tab.
Got
I
it.
like how Joe does it, because we can look quickly over to see when
Yeah.
it ends. Rick used to do that at the end of the year, at the end of all the meetings. Do it once.
Yeah. It'd be
I'm
great
not,
if.
I'm not making an excuse, but I think that might have something to do with it.
Yeah, no, it'd be great if they could do what Joe did for the DP, the RNA leases, just show them what they.
Yeah, I know that I don't believe Todd was a fan of trying to do that. I don't think that he has any. You know, if he did, he's probably paying it out of his operating budget. But
Okay.
I'll include that in the note that I sent to him. Just if they have any of it, the committee's interested in just kind of seeing what that might look like.
Mhm.
I mean, we are at what, updated, we're at basically 2.5, so we do have some cutting to do somewhere.
I
What
can
do you
give you
mean
one piece of good news. If the senior center boilers get approved, that price, I have the hard final number I received this afternoon. That's at 115,609. So basically, you cut about $15,000 out of that.
The
It's a
116,
What's that?
about 116, you said, sorry.
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
Bless
They,
you.
Excuse
they
me.
were actually,
So-
they were in the building today looking at, remember we talked about coring through the wall to vent that. So they looked through it and gave us a quote on letterhead signed right on the spot, so.
Joe, did you have a chance to talk to Steve about, going through these requests and getting his opinion on some of them?
I did, so, and I have his notes. I apologize, I was hoping to get a cleaned up version of the workbook out to you guys today. My day was basically meeting after meeting after meeting, basically until we kicked off. So I will do that in the far hand column where, some of my notes were. I'll include Steve's thoughts. He did say that, it's his goal to get as close to the 2 million mark as he can this year. For a whole bunch of reasons we've revisited a bunch of times. But I will have that out to the group hopefully tomorrow midday. That way we can take a look at that and have it for discussion on Monday.
Okay, good, guys, I think Steve's probably gonna knock some things off for us. So that'll help a little bit.
Yeah, any chance he's gonna get to, well, Monday he can't make it, I suppose, Steve, that is.
No,
Wednesday, might he be able to come?
I will certainly ask him. I do know that he is planning to make an appearance, so.
Yeah. Okay,
But Dan, he's told Joe, he's gonna relay to Joe what he usually tell us in the meeting, so
right,
I think that'll help out a lot.
okay, yeah, I mean, I know, Joe he pretty much have the handle on it, so, good,
Like I know, so like one of the things that he talked about that I have it in my handwritten notes, the boiler replacement and the floor abatement at the Ewell School. The long-term plan for the building at the time now, at least for the boilers, he would recommend against changing that. What they have in place is working for the time being. If there was, some sort of definitive plan that the town was going to keep that building and put it to use, then obviously that project makes a bunch of sense. But he kind of took a little bit of the opinion, if it's not broken, why are we fixing it?
yeah,
The same thing with the abatement of the floor, right? So the tile is not friable there at this point in time. So we wondered if that was deferred, that you picked up a $30,000 savings there. So that's just two of the things, and I'll highlight all of his talking points and notes so you guys can have them and
Good.
see them.
All right, you guys want to discuss anything else about the schools while it's fresh in our minds?
No, I can't say my mind's fresh right now, but
All right, so we got next Monday and Wednesday to go over. Hopefully the IT can join us on Monday. And then our final vote would be on the 16th. I mean, if everything goes well on Monday, I guess we could vote to have the final meeting on the 10th for the final vote. I just have to give the FinCom guys, Joe and Joanne, a heads up. their meetings are on Thursdays, right? Right, Joe?
Yes, typically.
I can email Joe tomorrow and that'd either be the 10th or that's a Wednesday or a Tuesday. I can see what works, make sure they're available for one of them.
Frank, Joe's actually supposed to call me in the morning. I had a question for him on, him and I working together on the feasibility study, which is out for advertising now for the high school. I'll run it by him in the morning and I'll let you know, but I'll give him the heads up that, I know he made his appearance, but if he really wants to get in as part of the conversation, he should start thinking about at least Wednesday of next week, if not both Monday and Wednesday, to kind of come in and take a listen.
Okay. All right, if nobody's got anything else, did you guys get to look at the minutes from last night? Can we motion to approve those?
Yeah, I move we approve the minutes.
I
Okay.
second.
All right. Joe, you want to close out with anything or are you good?
Nope, I think I will clean everything up and I'll highlight, the price change at the senior center and some of the other talking points from last night. I owe you a couple of supplemental pieces and, if you have any questions or other requests from me, I'll get in touch with the IT folks and see if we can get them in and keep on moving.
All right. All right, thanks. And, yeah, let me know, let Sherry know so she can put, if they're gonna come in on Monday, she can put it on the agenda for the website.
I will.
All right, thanks, guys. And motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
All right. All right, thanks, guys. We'll see you.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
See you
Yeah,
guys.
good night.